Really wish I pulled the engine. Just dropped the whole subframe out. We are elbows deep in a cam and exhaust install in my 2001 Trans Am WS6. In the last video, we took a mostly stock 2001 Trans Am WS6 with 63,000 miles on it and took it from a running and driving car to whatever this is. Torn down to basically a short block. And I got a ton of work to do on this thing, so I'm not gonna waste any time. Got the heads up here. These are the 241 heads, just your standard LS1 heads. Nothing special about them. A common upgrade is the 243 heads or 799 heads. They have a slightly better casting and I think a little bit smaller combustion chamber. Maybe tonight, if I find a set for cheap on Facebook, I'll grab them. But as of right now, I'm trying to keep this build simple. I'm not going for, record power numbers here. I think the stock castings will be fine. So these need cleaned up. So first thing we got to do is put them in my parts washer, which of course is outside with the power washer, because I'm out of room for a parts washer. Otherwise I would have bought one a long time ago. Maybe someday soon we'll put it out in the shed or something, but these got to get cleaned up. Then we got to get all these valve springs off, replace the valve springs with the new ones from TIC Performance. Titanium retainers. We'll do the valve seals while we're there. Got the special tool that I'm gonna have to dig out of the toolbox here from somewhere that's gonna do both of these at once. We'll get the plugs out. Also need to extract, oh, that one broke off. We might be able to get that with a vice grip. This one, we're gonna have to do some welding to get that exhaust stud out. And yeah, basically just clean these heads up. Take a razor blade, scrape all this off, get these ready to go back in the car. Over here, I think I need to drop the oil pan down an inch or so to get the pickup tube off so I can get the oil pump off, so I can put a new oil pump on, so I can put a new timing chain on, so we can get the whole cam in, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole bunch of new parts here, still gotta get unboxed. We got work to do. I'm gonna quit yapping, get outside while it's still light out and barely above freezing, get to work. Winter is definitely here. Oh well, it's nice and warm in here. We are making progress. Boom, right off the bat, heads are done. These are basically ready to bolt back on the car. Started by getting the gasket surface all cleaned up, and I did this via a razor blade for the most part to get rid of all the heavy stuff. That got rid of almost all of it, and realistically, it probably would have been fine. But sometimes I like to go one step further, and I actually like to use, speaking of warm, heat's coming on, so ignore that, a flat sanding block with some 400 grit and WD-40 or Soapy Waterworks as well. And I like to just go over the block with basically no pressure. Just literally the weight of the block, which is, okay. Just nicely go over the block, and that gets rid of anything else. And now we can see, it's almost like looking at a tree that you cut down. The original milling as this thing was, you know, coming out of the machine shop, or as it was originally milled. So now all that gasket material is gone. Anything like this, that's just staining. This is totally fine. This thing's ready to go. If you ask people how to clean cylinder heads and prep them for going on the car, you're gonna get 100 different opinions, and realistically all 100 are probably fine. Some guys use those little Rolo, what do they call it? Rolo discs or whatever, with all the rubber fingers on like an air tool. I know some guys get away with it. I don't really like that because I don't like to use stuff that's abrasive and not flat. The key word there is flat. That's why I like to use the block and like no pressure. Again, most guys do it. Probably none of them have any issues. Other guys use Scotch-Brite. Again, probably works just fine, but I like to use a flat block and some sandpaper and literally no pressure at all. It's literally just to remove any sort of crud or gasket material, and then you get this really nice, you know, almost like you just got it from the machine shop finish. So that's good to go. Do whatever works for you. They're all probably fine. What you don't want to do is just take, you know, sandpaper in your fingers and do that. But realistically, and I've done this before too, you can just use a razor blade, plastic razor blade or a metal razor blade. Just make sure it's brand new and you keep the angle low. Just get rid of the old gasket, make sure it's clean, slap it back on with a multi-layer steel head gasket. You're probably going to be just fine. Okay, head cleaning lecture out of the way. Also got my TIC Performance dual valve springs, titanium retainers and locks and all that stuff back on. Been a while since I've done an LS spring swap. I think since the LS3 and the Camaro. First one went a little slow as I got my bearings, but you know, used my special tool that does two at once and then was able to blast through the rest of them. The other head is down here. Good to go, all new seals, everything. So those are done. So heads ready to bolt back on. In the car side, and I apologize, it was difficult to film this. I'll grab a light. If you recall, at the end of the last episode, I couldn't get the oil pump off because we couldn't get the pickup off. So I went ahead and loosened all of the oil pump bolts, dropped the oil pan down like an inch or so, and that gave me the clearance needed to get that tiny little 10mm bolt off so we could slide the oil pump off. And now we are ready to install our new oil pump and cam and everything else. See, there's the old oil pump right there. Got all the goodies out on the bench here. So here's our new Melling 1025 high pressure oil pump. I think it includes a Copo oil pump spring for like super high pressure. I don't think I'm going to use that. This is for lower pressure. The red spring in here is what I've used in the past. Got my new timing set. I also noticed that this LS1 block does not have the provisions or the drilled and tapped holes for the timing chain damper. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use this. But I do have a new cam gear, new timing chain here, and they give you a new crank gear as well, but I don't think I'm going to use this because it's pressed on and the one on there is totally fine. So we're going to get on a new timing chain, new cam gear, new oil pump. I've got ARP cam bolts. I've got a new cam retainer plate and hardware there. And of course our camshaft, which we're going to clean up and then put some assembly lube on, and we'll get that thing in the block. But yeah, we're officially in the reassembly stage. So I think actually at this point I'm going to drop the car down, we'll plop the cam in, and we'll get it back up in the air, get the oil pump on, get the timing on, and then maybe we can even get the timing cover and stuff on and call that all wrapped up. Get ready to drop these heads back on. The block is going to need very similar cleaning and prep to the heads. So still a lot of work ahead, but chugging away. Let's keep it rolling. All right, next day, and our Trans Am officially has an aftermarket cam in it. Obviously got the cam in there, got the new cam retainer plate on there. I didn't love how my new cam gear was interfacing with the cam plate. Maybe it's just because I didn't have the timing chain on. I don't know. I just went with the original cam gear since it was in excellent shape. So we got new cam retainer plate, new timing chain, ARP cam bolts, and a brand new Melling oil pump and new O-ring on the pickup tube as well. Oil pan is all tightened up, cleaned up, torqued to spec. Rotated the engine over twice before tightening down the oil pump to make sure that it's nice and centered. This gasket surface is cleaned up. We're ready to put the new timing cover on, or the new timing cover on, I should say. Just cleaned it up, gave it a quick coat of matte black. Looks real nice. That's drying up now. And then we can put a little RTV on the corners, put that back on. Got a new seal to go in, along with new water pump gaskets and the timing cover gasket right here. But while that's drying, I'm going to get to what I've been procrastinating on a little bit, and that is cleaning up the block surface, because I'm not really looking forward to, once again, leaning over the fenders here into the engine bay. But all this has got to get cleaned up, same as on the heads. You can see I got some t-shirts stuffed in the lifter bores just to keep as much as I can out. Sometimes if I can, I like to try and run the vacuum while I'm doing the razor blade to try and get as much of the gasket material to go into the vacuum instead of, you know, into the coolant passages and such, but just got to do what you got to do. So we got to do that, and then when I'm done with that, we need to clean and chase the bolt holes. I guess that's what that noise was earlier, is that bolt, the smaller bolt falling down. But anyways, they make a tool so you can chase LS, head bolt holes, or you can just use an old bolt, take a death wheel, and just cut a slot into it. This is probably 10 years old. I've used this on basically any time I've had LS heads off. Basically what you're going to want to do is thread it in, and we just want to get rid of all the junk and sealant and thread locker and whatever they use from the factory, and get it all out of there. I used a little impact because if there's any resistance, this thing doesn't have a lot of power, and then we'll know that something's wrong. But in this case, we're good. So run it in, run it out, pull it out. And I already did this one off camera, but basically all that junk is going to collect in those grooves that you cut. Let's do this one. Just a bunch of junk in there. Clean up the threads. Make sure that you're going to get accurate torque readings when it comes time to put on your new head bolts or ARP studs or ARP bolts, whatever you have. But we're going to clean the deck surface first, and then we're going to chase the bolt holes. And then I like to take my shop vac and a tube. Where did I put it? Coffee cup straw works. Just about anything. But anything that you can duct tape to the end of the nozzle here, and then vacuum out every single bolt hole. You want to make sure that you get any loose debris, but more importantly, see back here, there's still coolant in these ports. So when you took the head off, if any coolant fell down in these bolt holes, and then you go and try and torque a head bolt with water or coolant still in the bolt holes, those of you that paid attention in science class back in the day, liquid cannot be compressed, so it's going to go somewhere, and it's potentially going to crack your block. So make sure you vacuum out your bolt holes. Your bolt holes are nice and clean and chased before you put your head bolts in. You should be good. And then once we get through that and the timing cover's back on, we can drop in my Morrell LS7 drop-in lifters, which have been soaking in oil for 2 days now. Just keep on going. Maybe paint some more stuff. Just gonna keep rolling with reassembly here. So let's get back at it. packages show up. All right, the deed is done. That was not that much fun, as expected, but it's all done. The deck surface is clean. I also cleaned the pistons up while we were at it. So this was a combination of razor blade, sanding block with 400 grit and WD-40, and then I actually ended up quote-unquote cheating a little bit and just very lightly with a Scotch-Brite and some brake cleaner getting some of the last stubborn spots. Those graphite gaskets are killer. Glad they don't use those anymore. Yeah, both sides clean, ready for the heads to go on. But before we do that, we're ready for the lifters to go in, which have been soaking in oil for days now. But unfortunately, I only ordered 2 lifter trays. I thought that they would have come in pairs, so I ordered 2, but turns out there's only 2. So I ordered 2 more. They're hopefully gonna be here tomorrow, and we can drop those in and hopefully get the heads on using our new torque to yield head bolts, which are all organized. You can see these 2 shorter ones for the topmost rear and front bolt. Also, still using this VHT wheel paint that I've been using for like a year now for random stuff. Painted the water pump. It's like a graphite, you know, metallic gray color. So the water pump is looking brand new, very snazzy. Someone recently put a new tensioner on it, so this whole assembly looks great. Got 2 new gaskets ready to go on. This is the power steering pump bracket. Gave that a quick coat while we were at it. Timing cover's on with the new gasket. This thing basically completely disappears once the water pump is on, but we know it's back there. We know it's clean. We know it's torque to spec. RTV on the corners where it meets the oil pan. Reassembly, engage. Also, you guys saw me open a bunch of new parts. There seems to be stuff showing up like every day now, so let's quickly go over those. Starting right here, because a lot of these parts are related. These are the valve covers that I have picked out for this car. Some of you OGs on the channel may recognize these because they're the same ones that I've put on this car and my twin turbo Z06. They're just a smooth, you know, no coil mount LS valve cover. So you can see them compared to the factory ones. They don't have those, you know, bosses where the coils would mount, but that makes for a super clean, you know, traditional small block look in the engine bay. So that's all good and fine, but the problem is, then where do you mount the coils? So once again, same as on the Corvette and the Camaro, you remote mount them. So you take these brackets, you can make these, but they're like 20 bucks. So I don't know, my time's worth more than that. I put the coils for this car down on the firewall, kind of near the headers. The coils for this car are in the fender, so they're both hidden. So basically that allows you to mount your coil packs wherever there's room. So I don't know, somewhere over here, maybe hidden up here somewhere, maybe back there. Let me know where you guys put your coils on your 4th gens. I haven't seen a lot of people with this setup. So then with that, you need to extend the coil wiring harness. 8 brand new TR55 spark plugs. Here's my China oil pressure sensor. The other one I broke. I think these are injector O-rings. They were literally like 95 cents on Rock Auto, so I just grabbed them. Use some aluminum bungs because I think I'm going to have to weld a breather fitting on these if we're going to do just like a catch can style breather. Again, exact same thing I've done on those 2 cars. So we'll have to weld that, which means we're going to ruin the finish on these, which means we're going to need to paint them. Then these are just some header bolts, and then these are some O2 extensions, which will go along with our headers. So that's a lot, but you know, I'm not putting back a stock looking LS here. We got to make it look good, and it's going to take some work to get there. So while I'm waiting for these lifters to show up, or these lifter trays, I think we're going to get ready for some paint, which is going to be difficult because it's literally 0 degrees outside. So we might have to get creative and bring back some rendition of the old paint booth over here, because I'm also going to be painting this intake. So we need to completely blow this thing apart, maybe try and smooth some of these casting marks out or injection mold marks out, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. So we got some cleanup to do, got some welding to do on the aluminum valve covers. We got a lot of paint prep to do, you know, body work basically. Then we got to make some sort of paint booth, and hopefully we can get this knocked out tomorrow. And then hopefully we can get the heads on. So with that being said, let's get back to work. Second snowstorm in a week. Gonna have to go snowball the driveway. But I give you the paint booth version 2.0. Check it out. Instead of over here, I just got the car off the lift and just kind of pushed it backward, and we got room, a little quarter section of this last bay here. Boom, paint booth 2.0. Come on in. So last night, obviously, got the walls set up. Started by getting the intake manifold smoothed out, and basically all I want to do is remove the texture from the runners here. So I think I did 180 grit, 240, and then real light with 320. Then I'm going to absolutely bury this thing in primer, and that should smooth it out pretty good. Not too worried about down here. I actually like still being able to see the part numbers. There's your LS6 intake manifold part number. You got the firing order, just kind of cool. Valve covers looking really good. Got the 10AN bungs for my soon-to-be catch can setup welded on. Not the prettiest welds because this is just dirty cast aluminum, and I also haven't welded aluminum in like 6 months, but once they're all painted up, they'll be fine. And also these are gonna be in the back, you know, basically under the cowl, so you really won't even see them. Then just hit the whole thing with etching primer just in case I broke through anywhere. And then we'll come back here with probably some 400 or 600 grit wet sand just to really smooth it out and make sure we're ready for our finish. Which the color combo I've decided is similar to what I've done on these two cars right here. I'm going to do gloss black valve covers. I've got the paint already. I just always have black. I'm always painting stuff gloss black. It's, you know, just a good color to have in your, you know, paint setup. And then for the color of the intake manifolds, you know, it's hard to go wrong with red. And not just any red. This is the paint code GM81 bright red, exact same paint code as the car. I have some Victory red left over from the red C6 Z06 we rebuilt. What was that, 2 years ago now? For those of you, you know, probably not that many of you that were still around or that were around for that build. But I think it's a little bit darker and I was afraid that the color was gonna bother me. So I picked up this Duplicolor Perfect Match bright red. It was like 12 bucks or something at the local auto parts store. This will lay down nice. And then we'll run the 2K clear right over that. Should look awesome. So red LS6 intake manifold, gloss black, smooth valve covers. It's gonna look awesome. And I got some goodies from my friends over at Holley that we'll get unboxed here a little bit later. But for now, I still got plenty of work to do. I'm gonna attempt to run some sort of booth fan, AKA like a residential fan out the window. See if I can't die of fumes in here. I actually got one of those full body suits. Obviously a respirator. We'll get everything primed. I think I might put it down by the wood stove to cure since it's like 20 degrees out right now. Even though it is obviously a lot warmer in the garage. And then we can lay down base and clear. So even talking about it, that sounds like a lot of work. Paint always takes forever, so I'm gonna quit yapping. We'll get to work. Maybe even drop the lifters in. My new lifter trays came in. So yeah, let's not waste time. Back to work. All right, I think we are finally ready to lay down some color. Got the intake manifold all prepped. She's smoothed, adhesion promoted, primed, and then wet sanded with 600. Unfortunately, I was in kind of a rush last night and laid on the primer probably a little bit too thick, and we got some cracks where it kind of, I don't know, when it dries, it kind of shrivels up. That's my fault, but you know, I was just dealing with the time that I had. Wet sanded most of it out, and hopefully I can do what I always do and just hopefully bury it in base coat and clear coat. But I was able to get almost all of the texture out and all the injection molding, ejection ports out, those little circles that were on the top from when this thing was originally molded 24 years ago. So I think our smoothed LS6 intake manifold is finally ready for paint. Also just shot a little bit of primer over the etching primer on these valve covers. Broke through in a couple areas, at least to the other type of primer, which is usually not recommended. Hopefully the paint doesn't have any sort of reaction, but wet sanded these as well. These are laser straight and smooth now. So hopefully we get a good result. In general, not good to mix products and have spots where you broke through in the primer. If I had time and it wasn't literally 10 degrees out with 40-mile-an-hour winds, we could reprime these, but I'm done with prep now. Let's add some color, see what happens. So yeah, plan is bright red on the intake manifold, and I lied. The only black that I have left is has been in this one of these, ready to spray cups. Of course, it's unreduced. I did label it from when we painted the Lightning back in like July or August, and it is feeling real thick in there. So I'm gonna see if I can reduce it, see if it's something that we can still spray. But if not, we'll take a trip to the parts store, grab a rattle can of gloss black, and then just do the same thing as there. And then we'll spray it with the rattle can, and then we'll clear both of them with the big gun. Which I'm gonna have to set up some sort of box fan in the window there, try and get some ventilation, but like I said, it's just the middle of winter. It's just nasty outside, cold, windy, little snowstorm ripped through earlier. By the way, B-roll footage I put in yesterday driving the Mercedes, it is technically still broken, but I unplugged the cam sensor because I'm tired of not driving it, and I've been driving it for 2 weeks now. It's been great, other than the check engine light. Drives awesome, no misfires. So if you see it on Instagram or in B-roll footage, it's just because I'm driving it. I'm not giving up on it yet, but it's cold outside. The garage is completely full, and I don't want it sitting anymore, so I've been enjoying it. Heated seat, XM radio, comfortable, rips, sounds awesome. Missed that car. Anyways, let's get the spray and some color, hopefully some clear. Maybe we'll even get these heads slapped on and torqued down, but still a lot of work to do, so let's keep going. Yeah, it's a state-of-the-art downdraft paint booth. Just sucking all the fumes out. It was real expensive. You probably couldn't afford it. Morning. Out here bright and early this morning, getting the heads torqued down on our LS1 here in my 2001 Trans Am WS6. Oh, forgot to run that one down. Finally got the intake manifold and valve covers sprayed in last night or late yesterday afternoon. Came out really good. I was able to spray that black that I had, that Ford UA black. I had to use 2 different brands of reducers, which is a definite no-no, you know, mixing brands and chemicals and all that. But it sprayed out pretty nice, and nothing blew up in our face, so that's good. Everything went pretty smooth. Everything came out really good. I put all the parts down by the wood stove in the basement last night so that they would cure. And it seems like they're pretty dry this morning. Unfortunately, I did get a little bit of dust in the finish, which is to be expected because we're painting in a dirty garage. And also I got a little antsy when the stuff was drying and tried to clean up around here a little bit. And I think I might have agitated my plastic walls a little bit, but that's nothing new on this channel. So nothing that we can't wet sand out once the paint is fully cured. But other than that, laid down really nice. The runners on the intake are really smooth. No more black texture. No more ejection marks from the injection molding. So yeah, everything looks good. Also, as you see, the heads are on. Got the block and heads one final pass to get them surgically clean with acetone. Laid down my new multi-layer steel head gaskets and slapped the heads on. Got all the head bolts in and run down with the 1/2-inch electric ratchet here. Just basically finger tight. And then this morning we're doing the first pass of torque. There's 3 stages on these, 22 foot-pounds, 90 degrees, and then an additional 90 degrees. So I'm working on that. So I'm gonna finish this up, and then we can get the parts in here and hopefully start some more reassembly, see how good this engine is gonna look with some painted parts on it. Oh boy, where did I leave off? 8, I think. Let's check. I really should have pulled the motor on this thing. Why didn't you guys tell me that sooner? It's too late. We've gone too far. We have to finish now. All right. First pass done. All right, heads are on and torqued, 3 stages. Once again, that was fun, but ended up just sitting basically on the rad support. Found that was the best way to get, you know, into those back bolts and get everything torqued. Basically 22 foot-pounds, then 2 steps of 90 additional degrees. So you'll need a torque angle wrench or torque angle meter in order to get this done with the factory torque to yield bolts. I personally prefer like ARP stuff because it's easier to go back and check that stuff is properly torqued. With torque to yield, it's like, pretty sure I did that bolt. You know, some guys use a paint marker, but just go slow, have the diagram right in front of you, you should be good to go. So heads are finally back on the car with brand new multi-layer steel head gaskets, new head bolts. Also, cleaning up the block, shout out to the viewer that sent me these carbide scrapers. Unfortunately, I checked my P.O. box one day too late. I just finished scraping off, you know, and cleaning the block and heads when these things showed up, but I'm sure these will be useful for future projects. So shout out to the guy that sent me these and the guy that sent me this Harbor Freight mini toolbox. matches my big one. Not really sure what I'm going to put in here yet, but yeah, thank you for that. You guys are the best. Shoo! And look at all the stuff we have got over here. First of all, got some goodies from Holley here. I knew I was going to have some bright, freshly painted parts, so there was no way I wanted to put, you know, this junky BBK whistling throttle body back on, which I think the reason that happened is because I think there was a hole or something you were supposed to drill here for the IAC that whoever installed this one didn't. But either way, didn't want to put that back on. I knew we could do better than the factory fuel rail. So I hit up my friends at Holley. They helped me put together a full, basically, performance package for this car. These guys are all about one-stop shopping. Everything from fuel to air intake to brakes to suspension, everything. Holley's got all that stuff, and I got a lot more parts for this thing that are sitting right behind me, actually, that are going to be in the next video. But for now, let's focus on this stuff. So, of course, I had to go with some billet fuel rails. These are in like anodized in a satin black. Absolutely beautiful. Comes with all the right fittings and AN adapters we're going to need. I think this is -8 fuel rail or -6, I think. And then brackets for not only LS2, LS3 mounting, but LS1 and LS6 as well. So obviously we're going to be using these brackets. Boom! Also had to go with this massive 92mm throttle body, which unfortunately is going to require an adapter to bolt to the front of this LS6 intake manifold, which I'm still waiting on in the mail, but we might be able to mock it up just to see how it looks. Here is the painted parts. The intake manifold is so bright. It's like hard to look at in the sun, but it came out incredible. Super smooth runners now. No more, you know, texture or anything. There's a couple nibs of dirt here and there, but again, we can wet sand and buff that out once this stuff is fully dry. I mean, the valve covers came out basically perfectly flat, but like I said, if we look close, there's some nibs of dirt and stuff in there. But again, I want to give this a few days to fully cure, then it'll be easy to wet sand and buff this. This will all look perfect, but just look at that contrast. I think that's exactly what we're going for. And then the black fuel rails will be up here to match. Also got my factory injectors out of the OEM fuel rail. Got all brand new O-ring seals on those, so those are ready to go on our aftermarket rails. So for now, let's get to work basically assembling all of this. Maybe get those new gaskets on the valve covers. Maybe mock all this up and see how it's gonna look. Let's see if all of this hard work is working. Oh my goodness. It turned out even better than I ever expected. That is a good looking intake manifold there. The black and red. What did I say? Can't go wrong with it. I bet you it's going to pop even more when we got the black valve covers, red intake, black fuel rail, red, black. Shoo! Love it. Whop! Whop! Can't open this all the way, and that's because like I said, I'm missing that adapter, but I just wanted to bolt this thing up with one bolt just to see how it's gonna look. Did not disappoint. You know what? Let's throw it just in the valley there, get the valve covers on, see how it's all gonna look. Man, dropping that intake on was like chef's kiss. Look at this thing. It's like, I don't know if it's gonna show up on the computer or the TV or your phone or however you're watching it, but for my phone right now, it literally can't even pick up how bright this red is. It is so bright, and man, does it pop. Oop. Put an injector on upside down. Idiot. Just pretend that's not there. But look at the rest of this. The intake manifold looks incredible. Actually ended up making this line twice because the first time it was like the St. Louis arch. So I had to shorten that down. Looks much better now. Valve covers are on there. Oh my God, the smooth look is the way to go. Man, it really is too bad for plenty of reasons, but you know, now that we did all this work, we still can only see half the engine. But man, when you pop the hood on this thing, and all the accessories are back on, and you know, this is not your average LS engine. You know, there's a reason that they put the beauty covers on the Corvettes. The LS6, LS2, LS3, LS7, they all had beauty covers, and that's because the LS1 or the LS motors without those beauty covers, they're just ugly. The coil packs up top, there's just stuff everywhere. So on the higher end cars, GM was like, let's just cover all that up with some beauty covers. But if you put in a little effort, try and hide your coils, you know, smooth some stuff, paint some stuff, you can really make these things look a lot better and look a lot more like your traditional small block Chevy. I'm pretty sure when the LS1 first came out in this chassis, I think there was even a comment on Motor Week or one of those review websites about how ugly the LS was. Thankfully, we've changed all that. I've still got grounds and stuff to hook up. We still got the map sensor to put in, all of our injector wiring. I still need to tighten down the valve. We don't even have any rockers under there. I just really wanted to see how this was gonna look. This was a ton of work, and I needed to get the motivation to keep going by seeing how good it's gonna look. And man, we have done it. This thing is gonna look sweet. Got to get that adapter on, run my throttle cable through here, which hopefully lines up correctly. And we've still got a whole exhaust to put on. We've still got spark plugs. We've still got to make our spark plug wires, coil relocation. I've got a trunnion kit coming for the rockers so we can update those rockers. But there was a ton of progress in this video. We can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you listen real hard, you can almost hear this thing chopping away at idle. And man, I think that's gonna happen in the next video. I think it's gonna move pretty quick now, just bolting stuff up and hopefully hearing this thing fire. Got a couple fuel fittings I need to order to make sure I can plumb to my factory fuel lines, but I'll get that stuff ordered, should be here pretty quick. Links for all of this Holley stuff will be in the description, and there's plenty more stuff in the parts pile over there, which we'll get to as this Trans Am series continues. Hope you guys are enjoying it. If you have been, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I gotta get going filming the next video. So this is Chris signing off. See you guys later.